1.21 gigawatts. Great God!
Shall we play a game?
Would you like a jelly baby?
Engage auto systems.
Aye. Engaged.
Clear all moorings.
Cleared, sir.
1/4 impulse power.
You know how to fly, don't you?
No. Do you?
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Down here, it's our time. It's our time down here.
The Force will be with you, always.
Hi, and welcome to the Geek Hangout podcast. My name is Mark, and I am joined tonight, as always, by my good friend and co-host, Grant. How you doing tonight, Grant?
Hey, Mark, I'm doing great. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us for Geek Hangout podcast. I have no idea what show number this is tonight. I forgot.
85. I think we're 85.
85?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to write that down. I thought.
Okay. I think we're 85. Maybe I'm wrong. I titled everything 85.
Oh, I feel now I'm going to have to look as we're doing it because I think. Now here, stand by. Let me see if I can get into our podcast.
Yeah.
85. All right.
Okay. All right. There we go. Okay.
I mentally I had us a couple of episodes further along. So, but anyway, thanks for joining us for episode 85 of the Geek Hangout podcast. We got a nice show for you tonight. We're going to talk about Star Wars and the Bad Batch, which wrapped up today. Yes. And so we'll kind of recap the finale, but also the rest of the season that we haven't talked about yet. And then we'll talk about for Marvel. We got Wolverine and Deadpool and Wolverine. Yeah, we got that coming out. We got some trailers for that to talk about. So some good stuff. So we always like to catch up with each other. So throw it back to Mark and ask what's been going on with you. What's happening?
All right. So I think I mentioned this on the last podcast. I've been working on keeping with my anti-streaming, like anti-streaming now. I've decided I was like, you know what? I'm going to start my own Plex server. Right. So I don't know if I talked about this on the last show or not, but I've been trying to do that, and I will tell you that I thought it was going to be way easier than it has been.
Okay.
Because I've run into all kinds of like little issues, and so it was primarily like I went into it not really understanding what I was doing and kind of been learning along the way. So I just thought I could load it onto my laptop, this laptop I'm using, and be on my. I figure out, I got a external drive. I load it on my laptop, and I'm off on my merry way. Right. And what I found out is that this laptop is crazy underpowered. Right. and I didn't even realize it until I tried to start doing this. So it will not load on this laptop. So then we have like an old laptop floating around that I use sometimes for other stuff. And I was like, okay, I'll load it on there. And because this is apparently an i3, this laptop I'm using is an i3 Intel chip, which I didn't even realize I didn't even know what that meant. Right. So now I do. Okay. And it means this is crazy underpowered, which is why it often takes me a long time to edit things. At any rate, so this is the i3. So the laptop that's been floating around that we don't use anymore and it's really old is an i7. So the Intel chip in that is better than the Intel chip in this, even though this is newer. Oh, okay. Which I didn't even know. Like I said, when I bought this laptop, I was like, I'll just get anything. It doesn't matter. It's going to be better than what I had. Well, that's not true. Yeah. Right. And but anyway, so the old laptop had the right chip, but it doesn't have the right amount of RAM. Okay. So then it didn't work on there either. So I was very annoyed. So I knew it did work because I loaded it on my son's laptop, which is a gaming laptop. But obviously he uses that. So I loaded it on there just to see if I could make it work, and I could. All right. So I was like, okay, so the problem is my equipment. So then last week, so I've been searching Facebook Marketplace for used computers because I didn't want to go out and buy a new laptop or a new computer. So I've been looking for used computers, and I found a guy up in Mount Joy, which is like an hour and 20 minutes from here, who was selling a desktop that it looked like what I need. So I ran up there last weekend and bought that. It was like $80. Oh, right. And I ended up. It was really interesting. So the guy, he has a bunch of stuff on his Facebook Marketplace, bunch of towers and laptops and stuff like that. So he and I got to talking a little bit, and he buys government surplus, like all that stuff goes on auction.
Yeah.
He buys it up and then he resells it.
Oh.
So he had what I wanted, so I brought that, and I still wasn't sure. I wasn't 100% sure this was going to work. I was pretty sure it would, but I wasn't like 100% sure it would work. So I bought the thing, brought it home. It doesn't have because it's an older computer.
Right.
It doesn't have a Wi-Fi card.
Oh,
right.
No,
right. So then I had to get and it I've got to plug it into my monitor, and then the modem for the modem for the house is in the living room. So then I had to like get this really long Ethernet cord that I had to buy, and, and now I plug it into the monitor in my office. I run the Ethernet cord out to the living room, and then and to do all this, right? But the good news is I have it working.
Oh,
right?
okay.
So after all of that, and this is like, and I'm trying to, and in the meantime, I'm ripping Blu-rays,
right?
Which takes a really long time because I'm doing it on this computer, which I now know is really underpowered. So it takes a crazy long time to rip a Blu-ray on this, which, and then I don't have a Blu-ray player, so I had to buy an external Blu-ray player. Like, so this thing that I'm determined to do, because now it's like every roadblock I hit, I'm like, I get even more dug in, but I'm going to make this work. So I've now, I don't even know how much I've spent buying various things that I need to get this done. But I have it working, and that's all that matters at this point. I don't know how I'm going to make it work long term,
right
but I have it working currently.
So where, like, when you rip the DVDs and upload them to Plex, where do you upload them? Where do they live?
Okay, so I rip the DVD or the Blu-ray. I save it I bought an external drive just for this, right?
Okay.
It's like a 2 terabyte drive.
All right.
And I rip the Blu-ray, convert it to MP4, because when you rip it, it rips as an MKV file, and then you have to convert it to an MP4 file.
Okay.
You don't have to, but MKV files are huge.
Oh, I see.
So you wouldn't be able to put as much stuff on the drive as it. So I convert it to MP4. It makes a smaller file, and then I can put more stuff on there.
Okay.
That's the plan. Now, at some point, I'll probably get really annoyed by that, and I'll want to go back and redo the whole thing and do MKVs. But that's in the future.
Right.
But yeah, that's how I'm doing. But so just this week, finally, after working on this thing for like a month, I actually have it working. I was actually able to play stuff on the TV, which is the goal.
Okay, there you go. So
so let's see. Yeah, it's but I'm gonna make it work. I'm determined. I'm like dug in now. I'm going to make this work. So that's what I'm doing.
So Plex is that like the software, or like, what is Plex like?
It's so Plex is a server, right? So when I was saying I couldn't get it to work, like I couldn't get the server software to work on any of these devices that I own.
I got you. Right.
Because it requires a certain amount of power, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, it doesn't require an overwhelming amount of power. You can pretty much make it run on almost anything except what I own. Right? Like I think most people would be able to like just make this thing run, but for me it was this whole task.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, so it's not like you need, like crazy amount of power, like most modern equipment. That's not true. Like you can run it, like the tower I bought is old. Like, I mean, it's an older tower, but it's an i7 Intel chip, and it had 16 gigs of RAM. And that's more than enough to make this run.
Right.
So yeah, but So it's so far it's working. And the whole thing. What's funny is the whole thing is started because I just want to be able to watch Doctor Who when I want to watch it. Right? Like that's how this whole thing started.
Right.
And now I've gone down this rabbit hole of but yeah, gonna make it work.
Good, right?
Yeah.
You'll get everything all said and done, and then it'll be like, oh, by the way,
yeah.
Disney will be like, oh, we have all the old Doctor Who's now.
Right. That's probably well. And what's fun, so once I got it working, so the other night I tried to rip. I was like, all right, so I've mostly been ripping Doctor Who because there's a lot of it. Like I bought all those Blu-rays, and I was like, well, let me get all this stuff ripped first. So I've been doing that. But after I got the tower, I was like, all right, let me try to rip Star Wars and see if I can get that loaded.
Yeah.
Well, the thing runs and runs, because it takes a couple hours for it to run, and it runs. I come in and check it later on, and it failed.
Oh.
And then I had changed a few things, reran it, it failed. Lucasfilm's so I was like, did they do something to their Blu-rays?
Right. There's protected somehow?
They protected somehow. So, because I didn't have any problem with any of the Doctor Who stuff I did.
Okay.
So then I ripped. So the other night I was like, well, let me try to rip the Wrath of Khan because I have that Blu-ray.
Right.
So I had the same problem. It failed. And I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, because no problem at all with the Doctor Who ones. They just worked fine. So then I'm doing a little research, and apparently it's like, so what I found out is that if, like, when you go in to rip the Blu-ray, it pulls up this whole menu of stuff that's on the Blu-ray, right? Everything, subtitles, all this stuff.
Oh, right.
And then you can select what you want to rip and what you don't. And I guess like on some of these Blu-rays have like Dolby HD sound.
Okay.
And I think the software I'm using to rip has a problem with that sound.
Oh, okay.
So you have to deselect the really good sound and just make it stereo.
Oh.
And so that's what I did with Wrath of Khan and I got a good
and it worked.
Rip. Yeah.
Oh, all right.
So I haven't tried Star Wars. I want to go back and try that with Star Wars.
Huh.
So yeah, it's great.
That's right.
And then you have to, and then for the thing to, I thought you put it on the drive, you load it into Plex, it was there, but no,
right.
Like you've got to code. Like when you save the file, you've got to save the file in a certain format, so that the Plex can identify it, like they know what it is, and then it pulls in all this information about who the director was and who the actors are and what year it was. Like it pulls in a bunch of information,
right,
based on how you code it, based on how you titled it. And I didn't know that, so now all of these have to be, written up in a certain way so that the data will pull in correctly. Like it's really gotten very. So now I'm like, okay, now I know why people don't do this.
Right.
Because at first I was like, well, why doesn't everybody just do this? Well, now I know why people don't do it.
Yeah, right. I have now learned the hard way. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. It's been an experience. But anyway, I'll figure it out. And then you can listen to me and get all the tips, and then it'll be easy for you.
There you go. Right. That'll be good.
So anyway, that's primarily what I've been up to. I really haven't been up to much else.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that's good then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. On my end, I not much going on over here either. We went on vacation. We went to Aruba, which was very nice. Lots of laying around in the sun and all that stuff. We did do this fun thing. We went on these UTVs, which are basically big dune buggies.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Aruba's, it's an island surrounded by water, but the island itself is pretty much a desert island. So like the one whole area we went dune buggying was like all like undeveloped. So we're like totally off-roading it.
Oh, cool.
Buggying around. It was a lot of fun. We had a really good time. And we've been there. We took the kids with us, and this was the first time they had been there, but we had gone several years in a row, probably a good 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Did you go there for your honeymoon?
No, we went to Hawaii for our honeymoon.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay.
Yeah. No, but we went there with our friends Kim and Chris. We went with when the kids were little, we used to go. We went for like 4 or 5 years like in a row. And then the kids got old enough to be like, why are you leaving us home? And then we're like, well, I guess we can't go on vacation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a bummer.
Yeah, party's over.
Yeah.
But for all those years, we never really explored. I mean, we explored the small parts of the island, but we never did the where we were this time around. So it was a lot of fun to go and do all that. We had a good time, and it was just like an adventure. It was fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, but other than that, I've been hanging out watching TV and stuff. I wrote down some things here. So, did you ever get a chance to watch that Manhunt show with President Lincoln we talked
No.
about? Okay.
I haven't even finished Masters of the Air. I know I'll talk about it. I really liked it.
Yeah.
And I think I got down to the last 2 episodes, and Bridget and I were watching it together.
Okay.
And she's been falling asleep, so I didn't want to finish it. So I still have to finish that.
Okay. All right. So I did watch the Manhunt show and stuff.
Okay.
You'll like it. It was enjoyable. It was only 7 episodes, and I mean, I felt like some stuff may have been missing. Like I'm like, just because the episode oddities with the odd number. I'm like, did something get? Did they cut this short? Like this, it's a full story, but like certain things are like I don't know, like truncated. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
But overall, it was good. And I didn't write it down, but I did see somewhere it said based on the book. And so I know you said, so it must have been based on the book by that guy that you were you guys tour with. So it was pretty good. And it really focused on, and I forget the guy's name, Lincoln's
Chase.
When President Lincoln's not
his Secretary of War.
Secretary of War, that was it. It really focused on his Secretary of War, whose name is escaping me, but he was like the main character.
Shit, I know this. I
Yeah.
can't think of his name, but it's not Wells. That was the Navy guy. Secretary Wells was the Navy guy. It's how do I not know this?
Nah.
Anyway, I know who you're talking about.
It was like 2 a.m. You're gonna be like, oh, it was so and so,
Yeah.
But anyway, it was good. I would recommend it for if you like history and stuff like that.
Yeah, I gotta watch that.
Yeah, it was enjoyable, and just like a lot of stuff that like you said, you always knew that John Wilkes Booth killed Lincoln, but like I never realized that he was part of the larger conspiracy.
Yeah.
And that like apparently like some of the Confederates were obviously in the South, but there's also a contingent of them up in Canada that were like supplying money in, and it was a lot more detailed than you realized. A lot more. It's the simple story is what gets put out there for history, so to speak.
Yes.
There's a surface level, but it was neat. They didn't get too into all that, but it was just enough to make you interested to be like, and then
I'm curious of it because I think it was in that book where how did they deal with Dr. Mudd?
He's a character in the story, but he's just like he goes John Wilkes Booth goes there to get his leg treated,
right?
Then you realize that Mudd is part of the larger conspiracy as well. But I mean, and then they show sort of, I don't know, they didn't they show sort of like his sentencing, I guess, towards the end of the series. But I don't know if somebody else said something to me, and I'm not sure if like did Mudd, it's not in the TV series, but did he escape to like some island or something?
He ends up, how does it work? He ends up getting charged.
Yes.
But not executed.
That's right. Right.
And so he does. Yeah. So I think he does spend time in prison.
Okay.
And then something I think there's like an outbreak at the prison.
Okay.
And he's a doctor, so he there's like some kind of outbreak. I don't know if it was like yellow fever or something happened at the prison after he was sentenced there. And I think he was there for a couple of years.
Okay.
But there was some kind of epidemic.
Yeah.
That he then helped like save a bunch of the prisoners because he's a doctor.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I think they gave him like a reduced sentence because of that.
Okay.
because they could never really prove like the thing. He's one of the more interesting characters in the whole thing because like, and this is really interesting is like he he was clearly more involved than history has led on, right?
Right.
He at least I don't know if he was like he wasn't in on the planning or anything like that, but like Booth went to Booth didn't happen upon that house. That's
Right.
kind of the point. Like Booth was aware of who Mudd was,
Okay.
and he specifically went like he didn't just be like they weren't just like roaming around the Virginia countryside and stumbled across Dr. Mudd.
Right.
Like he was headed there,
Yes. Yeah.
to get his leg set. And
Okay.
because he knew that guy was a sympathizer at least, right? Like even if he wasn't in on the planning. And and what's funny is like his family. So I think I told in the last episode or when we were talking about this, his family still owns the Mudd Farm. Like that's the place where Booth had his leg set. They still own that farmland.
Right.
And it's not open to the public, but you can arrange to go in and see that. And the family is very on the side of Mudd was just an innocent, right? Like, so it's funny, like when you go in there, they're like, he was just a, country doctor who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And it's like, no, that's not how this happened at all. But that's what they'll tell you when you go to see
that's
see the house.
Right.
Yeah, so I just think that's very interesting. But that house is awesome because it's like they still have like some of the original furniture, and they're saying like the couch in the front room is supposedly the couch that Booth laid on and had his legs set. Like, and that's just amazing,
So that it survived all this time.
Yeah,
and everything. That's pretty cool. Yeah. So, but overall it was pretty good. And like I said, just in terms of eye-opening just to what else was going on at that time. It was very, it was neat. And then who was Lincoln's vice president?
Johnson.
Andrew Johnson. That's it.
That guy's an idiot.
Yeah. And they kind of played that up, and you got to see like, what a, kind of what a bad politician he was in terms of, playing both sides, and, and he eventually gets impeached and all that stuff. So,
yeah.
But it was interesting. Like I said, stuff that you'd never thought about. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for that. So,
sorry. Yeah, I really think Johnson is the reason that Ulysses Grant ran for president. He didn't want to be president, but he saw Johnson squandering everything they had fought for.
Right.
And he was like, well, somebody's got to fix this. And he was the guy, he was like, I'd be the guy that could get elected. So I think he went, and that's why
that would have been neat, because Grant wasn't in the, in this at all. You never got to see it, even if he wasn't portrayed at all, but that would have been neat to see, because yes, as the show went on, you could see that he was like squandering everything that, he was trying to undercut everything they did just to sort of, in his mind, keep the peace and keep everybody happy. But it was interesting to see. Yeah.
He was Johnson's among my least favorite presidents.
Right. Yeah. But speaking of least favorite presidents, they weren't too subtle about what happened back then and some of the stuff that's going on today, without getting too political, but you can't help it. Just like like there's the Civil War, and it's like, well, these people rebelled against the United States, and how do we want to handle that? And discussions like that, and you couldn't help but see the parallels between then and January 6th and certain things like that that are happening today. And they didn't. I don't feel like they hit you over the head with it, but unless you were totally oblivious to present day history, you'd be.
It's hard not to see.
Not to see the parallels.
There's an awful lot of parallels. Lot.
Yeah. So, but I found it very interesting. It was very, very, I highly recommended. Just thing. But my critique was that it just felt a little bit, cut short, or certain roads that started to go down, and they maybe they could have gone a little further. So I don't know what the thought process was with that. So
interesting. I really do want to sit down and watch that.
Yeah, but I would recommend it. What else was gonna? Oh, no, and I started watching it's on Hulu, which oddly enough is also on Disney Plus now because they're merging those two together.
Yes.
But it's called Shogun, and it's
Oh yeah. I've seen a lot of. They've been pushing it a lot.
yeah.
I've seen a lot of.
And I remember when we were young, they did like a mini series based on the Shogun thing. And
Yes.
I remember, I think we watched part of it, if not the whole thing, in like our social studies class.
Oh,
Like,
you're right. Yeah.
right? In like 8th grade with Mrs. Gleam, wasn't that?
Yes. Yes. I definitely remember that.
Right, because it was like at the time it was like a grown-up type of show, and I remember being like, oh, anyway, so I started watching that. So it is a remake of that, which is based off of a book, but it's all in Japanese and there's subtitles. But so far it's been pretty good. It's very interesting. Again, there's just like an examination of the Japanese culture and what was going on and how the what is it now? The Portuguese were the only ones that were trading with Japan, and the English were trying to get in there to sort of start trading with them. And that's your sort of main English characters, this English speaking character, but he's an English man, and he's kind of like your eyes and ears as you go into this thing and stuff. But anyway, another historical, not really geeky, but historical. It was interesting. I think I have 2 episodes of that left.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so a little bit off the beaten path in terms of geek stuff, but it's fun.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm always looking for I'm always looking for something to watch.
So. I mean, especially stuff that'll hold my attention. I found that both of those, I sat there and watched it because nothing's worse than when you start watching something and all of a sudden you find yourself the phone comes up and you're like, I'm like, yeah, I really don't care about this show. You're like,
I hear you.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you're watching, and sometimes I'm like, well, I'm this far in. I guess I'm gonna finish this.
I ended up dropping off of Echo. I still haven't watched the end of Echo.
Oh, right, yeah.
So
yeah, that was what. Yeah.
So I'll get around to it eventually, but
I know that's pretty sad because there's only like 5 of them, right?
Yeah, I know.
I know.
But what we have been watching.
Oh,
you should see my segue. See my segue?
No.
Nice.
What? Oh, I got you. It took me a minute, but yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What we have been watching is The Bad Batch, which has been very good.
That's right. Yes.
Should we get started in that tonight?
Yeah. Sure. We might as well.
All right.
Right. So Star Wars. So yeah, Bad Batch. So season wrapped up. The season or series finale was dropped today.
Yes.
And so what did you think? Well, I just get into it. What did you think of everything? I mean, the whole thing.
I really liked this show. Now I will say nothing I predicted happened.
Right.
Right. I was convinced that Tech was coming back. Convinced.
Right. Yep.
Like I was just like, there's no way he's not coming back. And I was shocked when it was like, I was like, in the final battle, I was like, we're going to get the reveal and it's going to be Tech. And
at one point in the final battle, there's what are those? So they were the brainwashed clones.
Yes.
What were they called? I don't know what their name was, but at the end, there was like 4 different ones and they had different helmets. And the one helmet got knocked off the one guy at one point.
Yes.
On the ground and had these circle and I'm like, that's their Tech's goggles. Like not, but
yeah,
they were supposed to make you think that. I guess it was just to throw you off, maybe.
I guess.
But because I'm like, this is gonna be Tech, and then nope, it wasn't. I said, no, yeah.
I was like, oh, I guess he's really dead.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't believe that. I was sure. Like I would have, if I could have bet on it, I would have bet on it.
I know. Well, it's just funny because of all the, when the fans and everything, everybody was, everyone's like, Tech is coming back, or Tech is the Clone X or whoever that guy was. And I thought that's who it was going to be and all that stuff. And then, nothing. And everyone's like, spoiler alert, but everyone's like, oh my God, who's going to die? Who else is going to die? They're not all going to make it out of here alive. And then nope, everybody had survived.
Yeah, everybody's fine.
Yeah.
I was. Yeah, that was my 2 big things. Was I was like, it's gonna be Tech is gonna get revealed,
right?
And Crosshair is gonna die. Those were my 2. I was like, that's what's gonna happen. And then I was talking to a guy at work today, who watches it,
right?
And he would, and so we were going back and forth, and I was like, oh, these 2 things are absolutely happening. There's no question in my mind. And he's like, I don't know. I think it's gonna be Wrecker. He's like, because Wrecker got all beat up, and I was like, no, I was like, there's no way all of them could die. They're not going to kill Wrecker, right?
Yeah.
Like, because he's just too like they made him too lovable, and I was like, there's just no way they're going to kill Wrecker. But then a couple of times,
Yeah, me too.
I was like, oh, maybe that guy was right. Maybe they are going to kill Wrecker.
but when they started the show and he was like injured, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh. I was like, oh, I felt like that was foreshadowing. I'm like,
Yeah.
he's gonna be done for.
Right, because a couple of times he was like suffering from that initial wound. I was like, maybe that guy's right, man.
Yeah, right.
Maybe it is going to be Wrecker.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I really enjoyed the overall show. For being the series finale, I don't want to say I was disappointed because I enjoyed it. It was good, but I expected something a little bit more substantial to happen to the characters.
Yeah.
And I mean, Saturday is May the 4th. I'm sure we're going to find out what the next series is on Saturday. I'm sure we'll find out more, but I don't know if these characters are just, if they're well, they did at the very end, they did a flash forward.
Yes, which I thought was really interesting.
So that's what kind of caught my attention. So I'm guessing, if I had to guess, the next series is going to be more about Omega joining the rebellion. If they're going to stay with that.
That's my guess. That's my guess. So, because clearly, we know Dave Filoni well enough now. We've been living with this guy. He's been doing Star Wars for a really long time. We kind of know how he does stuff, and I think we know him well enough to know that, these characters aren't just going to get dropped. Like, none of his characters just get dropped, right?
Right.
So, I think we will see. We're definitely going to see Omega. Like that, absolutely, 100%. There's going to be a show with Omega as I don't know if it's because she's going to be the centerpiece, but she's going to be in it.
Yes, right.
And and certainly the clones are going to show up again. Like, I mean, because he said, hey, if you ever need us, we're here.
Right. Yeah.
So she's going to need them again, and they're going to be there. So I absolutely think we're going to see all these guys again. Maybe not in, maybe as guest stars in something, but I think we're absolutely going to see them all again.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was thinking too. I was trying to figure out what I would, it's almost like, because we're old school. I'm like, well, all these guys should be, by the time the original trilogy comes around, the clones should all be gone. I mean, I know that's not how it works anymore, but mentally that's where I'm at. I'm like, all these guys should have all died off or by now or whatever. And they're getting away from that. And so I'm like, all right, well, where were they? Why weren't the clones, why weren't they involved in fighting the Empire when the original trilogy takes place? But I guess if they were technically old and retired, that, maybe, but they did. So, Rex is running around at that time and he's old. So, maybe they'll have a part to play at some point, but I feel like I always thought there was going to be a more definitive end to the clones themselves. Yes, the Empire phases them out, but I kind of figured that maybe by the time of the original trilogy, most of them would have died. But with their aging, maybe they wouldn't have survived that long or been too elderly to do anything.
Right. What I think is really interesting, that they're, I love this how they're sticking with. It would have been very easy for Star Wars to be like, or Lucasfilm to be like, you know what, we're not going to worry about clones anymore. We're just going to move on. I like the idea that these clones were set up, they created them for the Clone War, for the prequels, for the Clone Wars, and now, so Palpatine creates them to help him take over and become the Emperor, right?
Right.
And I like the idea that these clones are now a thorn in his side. You know what I'm saying? They don't, because they don't just go away. Right. What you're saying. I think that's kind of what we all thought after we saw the prequels. We're like, oh well, the clones just go away, right? And then the Clone Wars established. Well, no, that's not exactly what happened. And then we've gotten, the Filoni-verse, I guess, has shown us that no, that's not what really happens. And I like the idea that no, these clones are an ongoing problem for the Empire. right? Because they've created all of them. There's millions of them scattered throughout the universe. They don't want to use them anymore, but what do you do with them, right? Like they're all military trained. They, so if nothing else from the Bad Batch, I like this idea. I like this idea that this is a problem that Palpatine's got to deal with for the rest of his reign, right?
Right.
And I think it's a cool concept,
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think it's pretty cool. And I can't remember. I think it was from the old, maybe it was from the old expanded universe. I can't remember. I remember at one point they went, so this is pre sequels and pre all that stuff, but like they went somewhere and there was like they basically found like a community of clones that had retired. So it was like after this, it was after the prequels, but in that gap before the sequels, maybe. I can't remember exactly, but I remember them being like, basically retired clones, and they kind of stumbled upon those. And I can't even remember what it was in. But I like that idea too. Like, right, they're out there, and maybe some of them are helping the rebellion. Maybe some of them are retired, and they're just like, dude,
right,
we're out. We're like, I want nothing to do with any of this,
Yeah.
But they're constantly popping up as problems, like
I think and like just in this episode today, they go to Mount Tannis and they free all these clones. Like I think, I don't know if I talked about it in the last episode or if I came up with this idea after we talked, but I had thought, I was like, like in the original Star Wars movie, Obi-Wan talks about the Clone Wars, plural.
Well,
right?
that's true, right?
And
yeah.
I was like, is that what Bad Batch is setting up? Are they setting up, because we see all those like factions of clones that are like kind of out there, and like, I was like, is that maybe what Bad Batch is setting up, is like a second clone war?
Yeah,
where like the clones are sort of rebelling against the Empire, and maybe that's why we don't ever see them,
right, later,
because they're fighting their own. They got their own rebellion going on.
Yeah.
I kind of like that idea. I don't know if it seems like that's not where they're headed, but I was like, I think that's a compelling thing to go over,
Well, and especially because it would have made, like, you have the regular clones, you have the Bad Batch, and then like in these episodes, there's like, they're the commandos. Like the one guy's name is it's from the video game Scorch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they have I don't know if they're clones under there or not, but they sound like clones. So I'm guessing that they're still, bad guy clones.
Right.
So I'm like, well, how come they're still bad guys, but all these other guys aren't? They've, like like you said, there's a lot of different factions within the clones now that there could be more to it. They could do more with that. And then it just does beg the question, like those guys there, that begs the question, like those clone commandos, I think that's what they're called. But like, what happens to those guys? Like, why are they still loyal to the Empire, and why haven't they been decommissioned, or why haven't they been
right?
Unless they get screwed eventually too,
right? Which is probably the case, right?
Right, yeah. Would you right?
But and then you have like in the last couple episodes we've been introduced to Omega's sister, like I forget what her name was, and now she's off.
Yeah, Emery, right?
Emery, yeah, and now she's off, like doing her own thing. So it's like, I don't know. I think it's like an interesting thing to explore, that there's all these clones around, and just and what happens to them,
Yeah, right. Because Emery went off with Echo, who was going back to Rex. So like that, there's it would be something to explore. And it's funny, for somebody that never, during the original Clone Wars cartoon, never really cared about the clones at all. I've now come around to where I'm like, oh, these guys are pretty cool. And,
yes.
I mean, like, it's they've grown on me. I now I like them, and it helps. I think that they have different personalities, and what I mean.
Yes,
they've really become individuals now, whereas before, they gave them different names and different things like that. But before, it was always hard to keep track of who was who. I just never that invested in it before. Whereas now it's easier. I feel it's
yeah. I agree 100%. I think that's why I could never really get into them because I mean they did have different haircuts or maybe one would have a beard or like
Right.
they would do different things to try to differentiate them, but I could never
I
like
never
they all
right.
had the same voice, they all had the so it was hard for me to tell one from the other. And
Yeah, and by
but in
default,
Bad Batch, clearly you knew who was different,
yeah, they've made them different enough. Like, yeah, like
Yeah.
even like like I mean, Echo is still a standard clone, but no, because he's pale and he's got his headgear and all that
Right,
stuff.
right.
So, yeah, but that's maybe that's something they do. Kind of go to with Omega B if Omega joins the rebellion, and then maybe she teams back up with an old Rex or an old Echo or something like that. Maybe
Yeah.
I don't know. It'll be
And
interesting
plus,
to see.
and does she have like? I mean, we know she's got a high midichlorian count. Does she have a high midichlorian count, or does she just have one, and that's why they were interested in her? I don't think we ever got that.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think we ever got that, like a definitive answer on that.
Like she have enough to have like Jedi power? Like I don't think we got that.
Right. Yeah, I don't. I don't know the answer to that, and I don't know. Right. I don't know the answer to that, and I don't know. I was surprised to see them go back to midichlorians and all that, only because with in Ahsoka and Sabine, like Sabine like never really had the Force until the Ahsoka TV show,
Right.
and then they were like training her, and even then it's kind of like, yeah, you're pretty much the worst student we've ever had, like which was funny, but I'm like, well, they tested her, would she have midichlorians? I guess she does, they just wouldn't be, maybe she just doesn't have a lot.
Yeah, right.
And so I was just surprised, like they're kind of coming at from two angles there. One, it's like, oh, anybody can be a Jedi or use the Force. But then back here, they're like, no, we want your M count. We need to
Yeah.
know that. So I'm not sure, if they were setting, because at first I thought, I'm like, once they were going down that M count, I'm like, oh, here we go. She's going to be a Jedi or she's going to have the Force now. And it's not that I'm opposed to that. It's just that I was like, I just thought it'd be, I'm happy she didn't yet, put it that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I was just happy that she was just a young clone, and we didn't need her to have the Force yet. So maybe she will. But then then if she's helping the rebellion and she's got the Force, then she's gonna have to run into Luke at some point. Like
right, exactly. Yeah,
you can't.
And maybe that's where this is headed. I mean, I think we both said I would not look. I want to hear that. I want to see that story of Luke after Return of the Jedi, and maybe they give it to us in animation, and I'm fine with that. Like
yes,
that's
I would,
as long as it's well done.
yes.
and Bad Batch was well done.
Oh, I would totally. Yeah, I would totally.
I would totally take that.
Yeah, just right. Just start piecing things together between the Return of the Jedi and the Force Awakens. Right. Just well, right. How did basically right? How did we get to where we were? And it's like including the meeting Ahsoka for the first time, and and that stuff, but also it's the biggest. I feel like the biggest miss out was not showing what happened to everybody before the Force Awakens. We've complained about that before.
Yeah. But but I still think like is that like him opening? Is that Filoni opening the door? Because so we know she has she's got an M count of some, and that was sort of my question. I was like, well, is she important because she has a high M count, or is she important because she's a clone and has an M count? That was because that's what they were trying to achieve, right? A clone that had an M count so that they could then work on a clone for Palpatine.
Right. So I'm gonna say, right, she's important, right? But she's a clone with an M count, so that's why she's so important.
Okay.
Because the other kids had M counts that were there, the other Force sensitive kids, but they weren't as important, or they weren't as important.
Well, they were trying to I think they were trying to transfer. Like I think if I was following it correctly, the kids were there because they had an M count and they were trying to transfer their M count to a clone or something like that.
Yes. And then once they found Omega, then they're like, oh, here's a clone that has an M count. So that saves us a step, basically.
Right.
So, yes. But then all that research was destroyed in this final episode, and Omega escapes. So then they were kind of back to square one.
Right. Well, they didn't know. Right. But after the whole base gets destroyed, all the information gets destroyed, and Hemlock is dead. And
yeah, right.
Say is dead.
Yeah,
is dead.
Right.
They're back to square one. Now, what I thought was interesting was, so they reintroduced, what's that Imperial officer's name?
Oh, Rampart.
They reintroduced him, and then they seemingly killed him.
Yes.
But that part didn't. I was like, well, they didn't reintroduce him so that he could follow Null, say, do the thing with the iPad thing, and then get killed.
Oh, right.
So I wonder if he survives somehow to be a villain in the next whatever's coming next.
Right. Somehow he survives and he has knowledge of that. That's possible. I mean,
because there was if they were just going to kill him, they should have just killed. I thought it was strange that he followed Nalase, seemingly decides he's going to blackmail the Empire for information that he just took, and then they just it certainly looked like he got killed, right? Because that whole room blew up, and I was like, well, I don't know that he's going to survive that.
Yeah.
But then why do all that?
Right.
So my guess is we see him again, even though it doesn't entirely make sense.
Right. I remember right. It's he's dead until the story dictates that he's not.
That they need him. Right.
Yeah, they might be like, oh, that he would be a good bad guy to bring back, or in the future with even with Mandalorian, like, oh, here's this old guy that's turned up. Who is he? And he has knowledge of of cloning and M counts and all that.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking now though. So assuming that he's dead and all the information was destroyed, so Project Necromancer is done as of right now.
Yes.
So then, much later in the future, after the Emperor dies in Return of the Jedi, and when we get to the time of the Mando, they want Baby Yoda because they want a Force user with a high M count that they want to try to clone and basically turn into Snoke, right?
Yes.
Or wait.
Well, they're trying to. I think if I follow it, what I think it is that cloning technology never really goes away. It's certainly not they make the clones for the Clone Wars. The Kaminoans are the ones who are experts at it.
Right.
They all get wiped out. But that technology of being able to create a clone is at least known in some circles.
Yes, that survives.
Even if they're not very good at it.
Right.
And what they're this is how I understood it. The reason they need Baby Yoda is because they're still trying to get a clone that is Force sensitive so that they can use that to clone Palpatine. And so they're trying to take Baby Yoda's blood.
Right.
And they're trying to take or genetic material or whatever and insert that into a clone.
Right.
I think that's they want Baby Yoda because Yoda was one of the most powerful Jedi of all time, and they're thinking his race will
accelerate there. Yeah.
Right.
So I guess the interesting question then, and something that we haven't had answered, is so the Emperor dies at the end of Return of the Jedi, and then we don't see him again until the very beginning of The Rise of Skywalker. So in that window of somewhere, like, so for a while, I guess he's like a ghost emperor. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he doesn't have a clone body to go into right away. Based on, and even based on the Mandalorian, like they still don't have, as far as we know, they still don't have.
Yeah, well, I agree. Like, I don't think that's entirely clear. I think
Yeah.
I think they've suggested that they just kept transferring him into new clones,
Right.
and then that clone that he got transferred into would, his essence or whatever the hell it is,
Yeah.
would deteriorate quickly because of all the dark, whatever.
Evil.
Yeah, exactly. So it wouldn't last very long.
Okay. And maybe that's what we saw in the one episode of The Mandalorian. Because remember, they showed what looked like Snoke's in the
Yes.
tubes or
Yeah.
whatever. So maybe technically the Emperor is alive, or during the Mandalorian era, but he's just in such a weakened state.
Right.
And
Right.
he can't access the Force yet. And then eventually they do succeed and create a clone, and then the Emperor can start body hopping.
Yes.
And be his full power. Okay.
Because somehow the Emperor returns.
Right.
And eventually we're going to get that story. It seems like
right. Yeah.
they're getting us there.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I'm glad that I want that story, and I'm excited.
I do. Right. Yeah, absolutely.
But it's just like, you're like, we need some filler here to make those movies better.
Yeah.
Just like the Clone Wars made the prequels better.
Right.
We need something to make the sequels better, or at least, I mean, better, but
at least makes sense.
Flesh.
Like they may not ever get better.
Right.
They're at least going to make sense. More
Yeah.
sense.
I know. I've been toying with buying that Shadows of the Sith book, which tells the story of Luke and Lando searching for the bounty hunter guy.
Oh, yeah.
From Rise of Skywalker, but also and that's the book that sort of lets you know about Rey's parents, and like her father was, a failed clone of Palpatine, but he was his own person, and what I mean. So I've been toying with getting that. I mean, with the books, I know they can willy-nilly change things as they see fit, but I feel like in the last couple of times they're trying, at least, like especially with Ventress, like she died in the one book, but they're like, oh, we promise. They actually said, they're like, oh, we promise we're going to make this make sense how she survived. And I'm like, well, at least if you're trying to, like, it's not just, it's not going to, like Lucas back in the day, he'd just be like, whatever,
he didn't care, right?
Yeah, he didn't care at all for the books. Whereas at least if they're trying. So anyway, I've been toying with the idea of picking it up and checking it out, but I haven't gotten that far yet. I'm not much of a reader these days, which I know. I used to like to read, but anymore I'm just like, nah, I fall asleep.
I always had a book. Always.
Yeah, right.
There was a book that lived on my nightstand, and it's like you said, I can't, it takes me forever to get through a book now, because I read a couple of pages and I'm falling asleep, so it takes me months to get through a book, and I just don't have that kind of patience anymore.
No, I know. The same thing happened to me, and I don't know why. I thought about it. The reason I started is because on vacation we were sitting around on the beach a lot, and I'm like, oh, I should have gotten a book or something to read. And then I was like, oh, maybe I should, like, whatever. They did, the days of having a book are gone. It's like you have to get a Kindle and all. And
right.
That's why. Well, I shouldn't say that. I have an iPad, but you can't read those on the beach, because it's all.
Yeah, right.
So anyway, So I'm curious, so hopefully we'll find out what the next animation thing is on Saturday, if we're lucky. And then also on Saturday, they're going to premiere all at once. It's going to be the Tales of the Empire, the new animated, their shorts, and it's going to be about the one is going to be about I'm blanking on her name. Morgan Elsbeth from the.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you're going to sort of learn her backstory as the one, and then the other one is Barriss Offee, who I think that's her name.
That name says.
What's that?
That sounds familiar. I know
her. She was a Padawan back during the prequels, and she's the one that like was kind of rebelling against the Jedi and like when Ahsoka got kicked out. Remember those two were sort of
Oh
intertwined?
yeah. I do
And
remember
then
that.
I don't quite remember what happens to her, but in the animated things, a lot of people have theorized that she was a prime candidate to become an Inquisitor. And when they started showing the trailer for this new Tales of the Empire, they show her, and it looks like she is in training to become an Inquisitor.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
yeah. So I thought it was pretty cool way to fill in some backstories for these other two characters. And I don't know if there'd be they're the two they showed. I don't know if there's going to be more, but I'm guessing they're the two.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that too because I think that'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, now this is the second round of that, right?
Yeah, the first one was called Tales of the Jedi.
Okay, I haven't I never watched that. I
Oh,
should
yeah, okay.
no.
They're the ones. They're the main part. Theirs is Ahsoka, and they tell some stories like when they show Ahsoka as a baby, and there's some Ahsoka-ish stuff there. And I remember
Okay.
that they were enjoyable, but at the time it didn't do much for me. But then the other ones are Count Dooku, and you get to see him as a younger man.
Yeah.
Um,
Those
there's
were the
a
ones I was interested in the Count Dooku stuff, but I just never
Yeah,
got to it.
they were actually really, and like you're actually watching it. Like I could watch a whole show about Count Dooku. Like I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
So yeah, hopefully, hopefully it'll, I like the little shorts and stuff. I think it's pretty cool. But I'm just curious where they're going with this too. I'm like, oh, all right. Now that we have Tales of the Empire, what's next? Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get another Acolyte trailer
Oh,
because
that's true.
because
Yeah.
that's the next thing on the docket, right?
Yeah. I'd forgotten about that. Yeah, we did. We only have the one so
We
far.
had the
So
one trailer, yeah, which was
maybe
which definitely piqued my interest.
did we
But
talk? Did we talk about it?
yeah, we talked about it.
Okay. All right. Yes.
I think that was maybe the first show of the year
Yeah, I can't remember now.
because I forget when didn't the trailer was it a Super Bowl thing?
Mm,
I don't remember. We have talked about
we
it
have
though.
talked. You're right. Yes. Yeah. Yes, we have. You're right. You're right. Yeah, I'm sure we'll get something else for that. They got to release something else because I think that's coming relatively soon. I kind of forgot about it, but I can't remember when that starts.
Yeah, it's I don't know the date. It's coming
Yeah.
up. I think, and
Yeah.
I think it's something. It's either this summer or fall.
I want to say like maybe May or June, like soon. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, okay. That's it. Yeah, it might be.
maybe I should probably look it up.
Yeah.
So, but that's as oh, and you know what else is coming up is the Skeleton Crew.
Oh, yeah.
That's
I
been
thought that
out
was
there.
next year.
Now, I don't know when that's coming out, but I thought it was supposed to be later this year. But I wouldn't be surprised we almost have to get a trailer for that sooner than later because
Yeah.
that's been out there for so long that I feel like people are going to forget it. Like they didn't realize that's coming.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, for the Bad Batch, like I really enjoyed this season a lot. Like I thought they had a really good, solid story. I loved the Mount Tantus stuff. They kind of
Yeah.
made a lot of things. They tied a lot of things together,
Yeah.
and then they gave you like more depth about things that we know are going to happen in the future. I just thought they really did a nice job this season. They really did. It was really well done.
Yeah, I liked it too. Same thing. I really liked and at the end, I liked when Tarkin shows up and he's
Yeah.
like, "All right, shutter this place. All funds get diverted to Project Stardust, which is this Death Star."
Right.
Just I kind of came full circle that way. I thought that was really cool. And then I don't know if it was on purpose or not, but in the old expanded universe during the Heir to the Empire novel, they go to this planet which is called Wayfarer, and they discover Mount Tannis, which is what this is based on now. And in there, they find some cloning facilities. And now this is in the book. This old man comes out, and he's a clone of a Jedi. I'll use air quotes, a clone of a Jedi. His name is like Joris Cyboth. And then Luke discovers him and starts training with him. And anyway, it goes down that road. It was very interesting though, because when Tarkin's like, he didn't say destroy the base, he just said permanently. I think he said permanently.
Yeah, shutter it. Yeah.
And I'm just picturing to myself, I'm like, oh, are we gonna down the road? Is somebody else gonna stumble upon this and find something?
Right.
whether it's a cloned Jedi, which I don't think they would do, but maybe something along those lines.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So but I thought that was a neat little possible Easter egg. I don't know.
Yeah. I really liked it this season. The only thing that sort of got on my nerves is the every episode had like the giant beast that they fought. That was kind of getting on my nerves by the end. But other than that,
And yeah, we saw the Zillow beast make its return.
Yeah,
too.
we saw this old based.
That just kind of came out of nowhere. I remember thinking we thought it was like, I think the last episode they showed it, but I think before that we sort of had suspicions that it was there, but I don't know if the show ever told us that or if I just saw people online saying that. You know? But it was fun. Just it came out, wreaked havoc and left.
Yeah, right. Just like blew a hole in the side of the mountain and then took off.
Yeah.
But that one was kind of cool. But every episode seemingly had like the giant beast they had to
right. Yeah.
That kind of got on my nerves by the end. But
but overall, right, very well done. I really enjoyed it, and I liked it. I mean, because it was just like a fun adventure show. I mean, there were stakes that mattered, but like you didn't have to think too much about it. Like it was enjoyable. I really liked it.
Yeah, I really thought they nailed it. Like, I season 1 I really liked. Season 2 I didn't think it was as good, and this was outstanding.
Yeah. Yep.
They really tied it all together. I loved how they ended it. I thought, like, I wasn't expecting them to jump into the future.
Right.
So but I liked it, right? Because it's sort of like a definitive. Because my immediate thing, like I've even said tonight, I was like, well, what does this, where do they go, right?
Right.
And my whole thinking was, well, there's gonna be another show and they're gonna show up in that. But it seems like they're saying, no, this is it for them. They kind of go off and just chill out, and they kind of raise Omega, and then she goes off to join the rebellion. So I think that's a good like way to kind of wrap it up,
Yeah, no, I agree. I think so. I mean, and I guess not for anything, but at some point Omega is going to have to meet Boba Fett because that's like her brother technically, right?
I guess that's true.
Because Boba Fett is an unaltered clone, which is a boy, and she's the same thing, but just a girl. So that's true. That's interesting too. So maybe they'll meet somewhere along the way. That could be pretty neat.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And I still think that there's a path here. I was like, I think the last episode I was like, well, what if Omega ends up being Rey's mom, or something like that's probably too much. But I do think there's a path to an explanation to Rey's parents through Omega.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
right. I mean, whether it's Rey's mom, who I don't really know. That's kind of why I wanted to look at that book, because I don't really know much about who her mom was. So maybe that's Omega's link, or maybe somewhere down the road, Omega gets captured again and they start testing her, and maybe,
right.
So technically not Rey's mother or father, but genetic donor, or something,
right? Or maybe it's just that, like, at some point she meets Rey's father and helps him escape.
Yeah, it could be,
and that it could be something like that. But I think there's a path. There's a path there to Rey's parents through Omega. Even if it's not. I don't think it's what I think in the last show I was like, oh, it could be her mom. That. Yeah, I think that's a little too on the nose. But they could explain it somehow through her.
Yes, right. And they definitely would make sense for them to meet somewhere along the way.
Right.
Yeah.
So, so we'll see.
Have to see. All right, good.
I'm excited.
Yeah. I mean, looking forward to the future of Star Wars. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff coming up. We got the couple different. The Acolyte premieres on June 4th.
Oh, wow. That is a lot. That is really soon.
I mean, yes, June 4th. So so that's coming up soon. So we got to get another trailer for that. And then, and then Skeleton Crew, and I think, and then I think they started shooting Rey's movie in last month, as far as I know. And then I just read somewhere that they're starting to shoot The Mandalorian, and Grogu is sooner than later.
Okay.
And somebody was trying to say that they weren't sure what was going on with it because Pedro Pascal is so busy, and somebody else pointed out that like he's not in the costume anymore.
That's
they're
true.
like,
It's just the voice. That's
yeah, it's
true.
just the voice now. So they're like, dude, he can, he recorded his lines over the weekend or whatever. Really, I mean, because it's the stunt guys that are doing all the stuff. So
Yeah, they just need him like on set one day when he takes the
right,
mask off at
yeah,
some
right.
point.
The proof, right.
So
So, anyways, a lot of fun stuff coming. So, looking forward to it all.
yeah, it is interesting how like Star Wars is going down this path of like there's always like like Mandalorian is shepherding Grogu through the universe, and Bad Batch is taking care of Omega, and like there's sort of a thing going on there,
Yeah,
with somebody's always taking a kid.
and it's I like it, and it makes for good stories. But like we were talking about something before the show, and you mentioned that hopefully sometimes stuff gets Disneyfied. You know what I mean? Like
Yes,
a little bit, and it's you can take it as an insult, but certain things happen, and that's what I thought. I'm like, oh well, Star Wars is leaning pretty heavily on the kids thing now. Like they're always trying to shepherd kids along, and I'm like,
yeah,
yeah, they're gonna have to mix it up a little bit to because
yeah,
I do enjoy those stories. I Baby Yoda, Omega, but you can't repeat it too much.
right. Let's get
Let's
agreed.
get
Like like I'm good with these two, and now let's do something different.
yeah, right.
So
no,
all right, you ready to move
yeah,
on to our Marvel news?
yeah, sure.
Okay. So yeah, the only thing was the Deadpool and Wolverine, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Got the new trailer.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, right. Because this one, right, the teaser trailer they showed, that came out around the Super Bowl, and we never saw Wolverine. And then this time around, he's like the main focus of it all.
Yeah.
So yeah, this looks really good. I'm looking forward to this. These movies are always funny. They're definitely rated R, which is just from a comedy standpoint, like they're like dropping F bombs in this trailer.
I know. I was like in the trailer. I was surprised that they let it fly.
Right. And there's like all kinds of innuendo, and like it's hysterical. And I'm like, well, I guess they're going all in. I mean,
yeah,
I think it's great. Um, I'm having I'm having a hard time, not a hard time, but I find it interesting. A lot of people seem to be pinning all of their hopes on this movie to sort of air quote save the MCU.
yeah.
And I'm like, guys, I don't think that's what it's going to be. You know what I mean? I think it's going to be irreverent and like silly. And I mean, it might get you excited for the MCU again, which is great and all that. But I feel like people are setting themselves up for disappointment if
Yes.
it's going to save the MCU.
Well, I think I've sort of gotten myself. I think I've passed the point where I'm like, this is the movie that's going to explain it all, because I just think that's never coming.
Right.
Right. Like we've been saying it for a couple of years now, and it hasn't happened. So I think I just don't think that movie's coming. Like we're gonna get it in dribs and drabs, and they may introduce concepts in this film that they use in other films, but I don't think this is the film that's going to bring it all together.
Right. I think this is just going to be it's going to be a Deadpool movie, and
Yeah.
a fun I did read somewhere that there's going to be a ton of cameos, so I'm sure that'll be fun for everybody that's been fans of all the Fox movies, and I think they're going to have like all the X-Men. No, I don't want to say all of them, but all those actors are coming back. I think.
Yeah.
I heard a rumor that and I didn't realize, but Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner, when they were Daredevil and Elektra back in their movies, they were made by
yeah.
I didn't realize that they were made by Fox, and apparently they're coming back or something.
Oh, really?
I don't know if they were made by Fox or not, but apparently they're one of them is coming back. I heard it's
okay.
Who knows?
Okay.
Yeah. So it'll just be funny to see who all turns up and just the ridiculousness of it all. It should be a lot of fun though.
And
yeah. It'll be fun to have Wolverine back. I mean, he's a great. I mean, Hugh Jackman does a great job with him. And it looks like the impression I get from the trailer is that it's not the Wolverine we knew from those movies, but because eventually he goes on to die in Logan, but it's definitely a Wolverine variant that's very similar to those guys.
Yeah. Well, I that's what I got from this trailer was that it's like, I mean, they say a couple of times this Wolverine failed his world.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting. So he's like he's a version of Wolverine. I'm just kind of curious as like, well, where is he? Like, if he failed his world, how did he get to where he is? And like that kind of, so and I guess Deadpool's got to go find him. And I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, just the if anything, this should shed more light on the whole multiverse and the variants, and I mean the TVA is involved now.
Yeah, right.
So like I think it should, I hope, kind of blow the doors open on that, like, because now it's still a little bit like, oh, there's the multiverse, but what it like what it is, but it's like, how does it work? And then you have the TVA. So hopefully now, like, if they're just hopping around, hopefully they just figure it out real quick and explain it real quick and go. You know what I mean? Like, let everybody know how it works, because I feel like that's it. It's always enjoyable, but it's getting a little old at this point. Like let's go, let's figure this out.
I wonder if we get it. Do you think we get a Loki cameo?
I haven't heard that rumor, but I would not be surprised.
That would be kind of cool.
I mean,
to see Loki show up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how he would.
Well, he's he's holding the threads of the multiverse together, isn't he? Like,
right. So I'm like, how do you cameo? I mean, you can have him cameo, but like, do they like stumble into that area wherever he is or something? Like, is it is it a legit cameo and it's important to the story, or is it just like
he's there? Right.
They're fighting and they fall into a room and you're like, oh, hello.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm very curious to see what it is, and not for anything. I mean, I feel like Ryan Reynolds is very well liked in terms of the movie industry, and I'm like, if he asks somebody to come into his movie, I think people are going to just show up.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised, if, I mean, anybody could turn up. I feel like it's wide open for cameos and guest stars and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I read a rumor today that Henry Cavill might be making an appearance in.
Really?
As Captain Britain, who's a Marvel superhero, but it's it's London or England's version of Captain America.
Yeah.
And I read a rumor that he might be doing that.
That'd be cool.
And I thought that would be pretty funny and cool. And I don't know if it's legit or not. That's just a rumor I read today.
Yeah, that scene in this trailer where he's right here. Let's see if we can get it right there. Is that from a known movie?
Not that I'm aware of. I believe, and spoilers, I guess, I saw somebody online comparing. See those like the monuments behind him?
Yes.
They compared that to a comic book panel, and it has Wolverine on the ground like that, and behind him are all these gravestones of X-Men that have been killed.
Oh.
And so that's what they were saying, that might be a flashback to sort of when he failed his version of the X-Men or something like that.
Yeah, because he's definitely younger in that.
Yeah. Now it could, now that we're talking though, it could have been, I don't remember how the movie Logan, that takes place in the future, and other than Charles, I don't remember any other X-Men being in that. So it could be from that movie. I'm not sure.
Okay. It's because here's the thing. I have, and I still can't believe it, but I have never seen Logan.
Okay.
And I keep, it's one of those movies that's like, every time I see it, I'm like, I really need to sit down and watch that movie. Yeah. And I just have never seen it for one reason or another. And I want to,
Yeah.
but it's like I gotta find a time when it's because nobody else wants to see it, so it's like I gotta find a
Right.
time when I can sit down
Right.
and just watch it. That was the kind of thing like back in the when everybody used to go to bed at the same time. They'd all go to bed and I'd put something like that on
Right. You
and
could
watch it.
Yeah, watch your program. Right. Yeah.
Right, but like it doesn't happen anymore. So
No. It's yeah. I saw it, but well, from what I remember, it's very well done. It's good. It probably would. I mean, it would probably pay to watch it before you see this
yeah,
one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I definitely got to watch
there's
it. And
what's
besides the fact, I just like Hugh Jackman. I think I
yeah,
like him
right.
in pretty much anything he's done.
Yeah,
So
and Patrick Stewart's in it. He can't go wrong
yeah,
with him.
right.
And then there's also in Logan, there's X-23. I forget what her name is, but she's a young girl with Wolverine's powers.
Okay.
And I know was in the comics, but she was in the movie. And I'm not sure if she's gonna be in Deadpool and Wolverine, if she's
Okay.
around somewhere. So she might be popping up there too. But she coincidentally is also the girl that played oh no, I take it back. I'm thinking of somebody different now. No, she's going to be in the Acolyte show. She plays a Jedi in the Acolyte show. That's what it is.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But yeah, anyway. So yeah, so she might be popping up over there. Too. Now this scene here they're showing are those guys there from the Age of Ultron?
We sort of talked about that last time.
Yeah.
It certainly looks. I think it is.
Okay. So part of me thinks
I absolutely think that's the scene from Age of Ultron.
Okay. Yeah. So part of me thinks that I think I don't know how they're going to do it, but I think it's going to be a bit in the movie where they go through various different movies and show up and kill people.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if they just roll through the greatest hits type of thing and just kind of go through and do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because it would probably be funny and then it'd be cool. And, but it got me thinking because I'm like, well, if that's the one Avengers movie, I'm like, are they going to somehow throw these guys into Endgame or you know what I mean? Have them.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering that myself. Yeah, that definitely looks like Age of Ultron to me.
Yeah, yeah. And then I think at the very end of the trailer, they show one of Doctor Strange's portals opening up and the two of them are jumping through it. And it just occurred to me now, but I'm like, I have assumed that was how they were transversing the multiverse. But is that them going to the final battle of Endgame?
Right.
And we just never saw them.
Right. Well, maybe that's where maybe that's where they're because Peter Parker says they all remember he explains to Tony that we all got together and said, hey, we got to go. All the people that came back, maybe that's where they are. Where in that nether region or wherever the hell that is.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that could be it.
Yeah. Did you see that the giant skull of Ant-Man?
Oh, I forgot. Yes. Yeah, this one here. Yeah, because at first I thought it was just his helmet, but then apparently you can see his teeth once it opens up.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see if I can get it.
Oh, that was
that's definitely.
Who was what was the monster at the end of time called? Because that was in the scene there too.
Oh,
Loki.
I forget. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I forget his name. Yeah, but they just showed him, and then and I think that
I can't get it to right, but it opens and you see skull teeth there.
Yeah, right. And you're like, oh damn.
Yeah, and even it here in this. You see them inside this. I think you see them inside the skull.
Oh, is that right?
Let's see, where is it? They're right there. They're jumping. I think they're jumping from the portal, from the skull into a portal.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what that is around the side.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I don't know for sure, but that's what it looks like to me. There's another scene where he's just in. It looks like he's in a cave, but I think they're inside the skull.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I can't find it, but
yeah.
Yeah. So
Well,
I think that's very interesting.
yes, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think they can have a lot of fun with it. I mean, especially with the multiverse and with all, you know what I mean? Like they can just do whatever they want and just have a blast. And of all the movies, Deadpool really lends itself to it because they can just kind of make fun of everything too.
Yeah.
Just do whatever. So yeah, I'll be but really curious to see how it all plays out. I'm
Yeah.
just
I hope it's a hit for them. I really do because they
yeah.
need a win. You know.
Yes, I agree with that.
So hopefully.
I think it will. I mean, I think it will. I mean, the Deadpool movies have been successful. You can't go wrong with Wolverine, you know, and with the whole multiverse and all that stuff. Like, I think, I don't know. I mean, the only thing holding them back would be the R rating,
Yeah.
just because they're not going to be able to get a lot of the teenagers into the theater. But I'm sure they'll figure something out too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, what's good? Like, I mean, Nick is, sort of grew up on all this stuff, and he was a little kid when all the, when the early movies came out, and he kind of grew up on it. But now he's going to be 16, and
Yeah,
he's
right.
going to want to go see a rated R movie.
Right.
So it's
And
kind of like,
you're like, all right, here we go. Right.
yeah, yeah.
I know.
So
Now, has he seen the other ones? Do you know?
I
I mean, he probably,
well,
yeah,
he likely has.
yeah, right.
I mean, I've never taken him to see him, but I'm sure he's watched him online or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and if he hasn't, I'll sit down with him and watch it.
Well, right.
You know,
I mean,
I was like, look, that, just there's stuff in here that's
right.
sort of inappropriate, but you can deal with it.
I know that really. I mean, as much as we enjoy them, the target audience is probably the 16-year-old.
Right. I mean, that's what it was for us, right? Like we always wanted to get into the rated R movies.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, really like this. And then for Marvel, I really have no idea what else is coming from them. I mean, I've heard rumors and you heard different things, but like as of right now, I'm pretty sure it's just Wolverine.
Yeah.
Or Deadpool and Wolverine. I don't even know if is there a TV. I don't think there's even a TV show coming out. I think everything's like on.
I don't think so. I mean, it's I think they're resetting. We will likely hear. I think what that D23 the Disney big Disney convention is at the end of the summer.
Okay, so that probably will be.
My guess is we hear then, like maybe we might get a trailer for whatever's new at the end of this movie.
Oh, true.
Right, like so, there might be a teaser trailer for whatever's next at the attached to Deadpool and Wolverine, and then we will likely get, my guess is, plans about the future at D23.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, because I think Comic-Con is over the summer. That's usually late July, and then D23 is in August. So between the two of them, one of those will get
right
news out of. So, well, that'll be good though, and not for anything. It makes sense for them to take a break and kind of regroup because they lost track of everything for a little while there.
Yeah,
I mean, I know the Marvels didn't do well, and it wasn't a bad movie. It didn't feel like it wasn't a special movie. You know what I mean? It didn't, like, we saw it in the theater. I enjoyed it, but I didn't have to see that in the movie theater.
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah. And then what was before that? Was it over the summer? Was it Thor or was that? No, what was it? I can't remember.
I don't know. It's just been a lot of mediocrity.
Yeah.
A lot. It's the Marvel. Like I don't even remember when Thor came out.
No, I think that was last summer. Oh
yeah. Because I saw that on I was on a cruise when I saw that.
Yeah. And then Ant-Man. Oh, the only thing that I really enjoyed was Guardians 3.
Guardians 3 was good, right?
That was really good. I really enjoyed that. But ever since, everything's just been sort of like,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to pin too much. I'm mentally just picturing this as just being a silly comedy and just enjoying it for what it is. But, part of me does hope that it answers everything.
Yeah. I really do think I'm kind of like past it. I was like, Dave, I don't think they're ever going to, like, we're all hoping for for this revelation, I don't think we're gonna get it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do agree with you because yeah, and really on their end, they really should break. If people are still holding out hope, they really should break them of that hope type
Yeah,
of thing. Just be like, look, just enjoy the movie.
this
Like,
isn't happening. Stop,
yeah,
stop
right,
talking about it because it's not
right,
happening.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it may be because they don't know where they're going. Although I find that hard to believe, but
I I mean, I really think just because they were trying to churn out so much content that instead of having one direction, they had like four. It was like
yeah,
the multiverse, the eventually the Thunderbolts, with the anti-Avengers or whatever, what I
yeah,
mean,
right.
guys up, and then there's the Young Avengers, and then there's I feel like there's a fourth thing, just there's all this different stuff. So, um,
Yeah,
you know,
there's the magic people, and there's the
yeah,
like
yeah. So
so
I did hear a rumor they released something about the Captain America, it's going to be the Falcon as Captain America.
yes, I did
New
hear.
New World Order, is that right?
I don't know, but
I forget.
I do remember hearing something like it was really the first time I've heard them say, like, I mean, they had that show and then we didn't hear anything about
Right.
Anthony Mackie again, and it's
Yeah.
like, well, is he Captain America? Because if he is, shouldn't he be showing up?
Yeah, like he should
And
he should have been like he
yeah,
been at like the end credit of every movie, like top.
right, like shouldn't we get, and it's the same thing with like I thought Shang-Chi was really good, but like
Where'd he go?
where'd he go? Like we
Right.
saw him and then he disappeared. Like why aren't we getting
Right.
hints of, that's what they did in the old movie, in the original
Yeah.
movies. There were hints along the way of these people like getting together, and they
Yeah.
just aren't doing that.
I did read somewhere, and possible spoilers, but apparently in this movie, in the Captain America movie, Harrison Ford is the president, and
Oh, okay, yeah.
he basically says to Captain America, "It's time to get the Avengers. It's time to rebuild the Avengers, or something like that." So I think, again, that might be the start of
Whatever's next, right?
whatever's next, and like you said, almost going back to the original template where it's like, all right, here's your couple characters, and we're going to start interspersing them at the end of the movies, and let you know that the big Avengers movie, which was supposed to be about Kang, but apparently isn't anymore,
Yeah,
is coming.
it seems like they're really dry. Which still baffles me. Like I still don't understand, but I think that's absolutely what they're doing. I think they're just going a different direction, which I don't.
I think on one hand, it would have been so easy to recast him and
Yes,
just keep going. But on the other hand, or whatever you want to say, he was in Ant-Man, not the actor, but the character. Kang was in Ant-Man, and he kind of died. Like he was just kind of like lame. And then they had the cancel at the end. And I'm wondering if they're just based on the actor's real world problems, if they're just like giving up on Kang. You know what I mean? Like if they're like, yeah, we're not feeling it.
well, yeah, and maybe they've come to the conclusion it's too involved,
It could be,
and then they had this like it may be too much for an average moviegoer to get their head around what Kang's all about.
Yeah, right.
And because of that, and because of the real world problems, they were like, you know what, this is our opportunity to just reset.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
let's take it. That might be what they're going for. Like, there may have been those who were skeptical about how successful Kang would be, and
Right.
and then and then with couple that with the actors' issues, then they were like, look, we need to change this up.
Let's course correct here and
Yeah,
do something different. So yeah, I'm not sure. I like they it was like Avengers Kang Dynasty, and then the next one was Avengers Secret Wars, right? When they announced them a while ago. But like lately,
yeah,
I keep hearing or seeing people say Avengers 5.
yeah. Well, they took the Kang Dynasty out.
Yeah,
They did do that.
yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think it's disappointing because I was like, I thought they laid a pretty good groundwork, but then we're we're fans, right? Like we're kind
Right.
of super fans. So like Kang for us is like we sort of got Kang, but like for an average moviegoer, they're like, well, didn't they kill him and now he's back, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
maybe that's why they just like decide, you know what, let's just go in an entirely different direction. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought it's just a bummer because I thought the groundwork they laid was really interesting in Loki, and then
Right.
in
Yeah.
I thought it was he could be a really interesting character. So it's a bummer that we're seemingly not getting that. But
Yeah. 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 I know. I just right. Then you make well, there's enough lead time that they can just do anything really. But you
yeah,
know, you're like, yeah, it is a shame to see that scrapped. If they are scrapping it entirely, you know, it's that's a shame.
yeah. I mean, he may make they may figure out a way to do it later on or whatever. But I think
Yeah.
I do feel like they've moved on. Like they're like, all right, we're just going a different direction now.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe
So
that's for maybe that's for the best because between the whole confusion with Kang, I mean, I feel like there's a little bit of a multiversal fatigue. People are kind of getting
yeah,
tired of the multiverse a little bit. Like, okay, I mean, this movie here is going to be different, but yeah. So who knows? Maybe just
yeah.
get back to a more traditional, like, oh, here's the bad guy.
Here's your villain. It's one
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, yeah.
Like that was what was nice about Thanos. You knew that was the bad guy.
Right.
It was. He
And then,
was.
and then not for anything, but by the time Endgame rolled around, and they did get sort of creative with like Thanos. Remember they kill him at the beginning of the movie, but then
Yeah,
I don't even remember now. How does Thanos show up at the end? Does he travel through time also?
he finds out. He uses Nebula to find out. Like he uses the present day Nebula, because she goes
Right.
back in time, and they
Right.
capture her, and then he uses her to find out what she knows, and then he jumps, and then he decides to like take over the Earth
Yes.
based on
That's right.
um what Nebula
Yeah.
knew.
Okay.
Right. That's so
Yeah.
it's past. It's not so the Thanos they defeat in Endgame is
Technically.
a Thanos from the past.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So my whole point with that was though, is by the time they got into some more cerebral science fictiony time travel type stuff, it was too late because you were already at Endgame. You know what I mean?
right,
Like
right,
you
right,
already
right,
the people were already in the theater. They're like, I don't know what's happening, but okay, where it's
right,
like,
right.
whereas with Kang, it's like, wait, what's happening? It's a little
And it
bit,
did well. It in the end, it didn't matter because it was like Thanos was a bad guy. It didn't matter where he was at what point in
yeah,
time
right,
he was a bad guy.
right,
So it didn't matter if it was old Thanos or new Thanos or
right.
whatever.
He doesn't, here he is. He's the bad guy, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So
So I hope this is a little bit of a tangent, but I hope at some point we find out if Steve Rogers is truly dead or alive. That's like my biggest pet peeve with the
yeah,
MCU right now. I'm like, if you wanted to show him as an old man, that's great. But like, where is he? What happened to him?
yeah. I think we find out in the. I think you will absolutely see a Steve Rogers cameo in whatever the new Captain America is.
You think so?
I think,
Okay.
and it may not be. It may. It may just be like I think you'll get him, and it may be him giving advice to Sam
Okay.
about something, whatever. But I absolutely think you will see Steve Rogers in that film at some point.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
So
Interesting.
maybe even as a post credit, or something. But I
That
think
could be fun.
I'm sure we're going to get some because they know he's out there. They know it's killing all of us. Everybody loved
Yeah.
Steve
Right.
Rogers, right?
Right.
Everybody
Right.
wants to know what happened to him. So they're absolutely like at some point they're going to give that to us.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been so long, It's
I
like
know.
I
I
really
know.
thought in the Falcon and Winter Soldier we would have had that. Or
Yeah.
something, but I mean they made the joke about him living on the moon or whatever. So who knows,
Yeah. I definitely think we're gonna get him. So we'll see.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So
what I even heard, um, I heard that Robert Downey Jr. said he would be
yeah,
open to coming back
I know. I was very
for
surprised by
something.
that. I forgot he
So
said that. Earlier I was referencing all the cameos in Deadpool and how Ryan Reynolds is friends with everybody, and I'm thinking, I'm like, well, maybe he's going to turn up in there as a cameo. Wouldn't that
yeah,
be funny? Just especially with like, I mean, remember during what was it, Deadpool 2 that Brad Pitt had like his split second cameo? Remember,
yeah,
like an invisible guy character or whatever.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, wouldn't it be funny to all of a sudden, here's Iron Man, but in and out, or what I mean, just like a quick.
Well, how funny would it be to have Deadpool, like Ryan Reynolds and Robert Downey Jr. in a scene together interacting as
That
Iron
would
Man and Deadpool? That would be hysterical.
that would be very funny, right? That
Like
would
even
be,
if it was just for like a that like
yeah.
I don't know if that I would absolutely pay money to go see that.
Right.
You know,
That would be good. That would be good.
so
Yeah.
but
And right. Well, and then then throw in Wolverine if he's there too.
yeah.
That would be awesome. I keep seeing this is another tangent. I keep seeing things about a possible Spider-Man 4, but not Tom Holland's Spider-Man, but Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. There's
Oh,
like
really?
rumors that Sony was thinking about doing a movie, like a fourth movie with Tobey Maguire, maybe. And I was like, what is this? But the love is there for that version of
Yeah,
Spider-Man.
yeah.
It's all, there's so much nonsense
Well,
on that.
Sony's just what are they like? What was that Madam Web? I'm almost tempted to sit down and watch Madam Web just to see because everybody was like, it was like universally hated. Like
Yes,
even the
yeah.
actresses were like, yeah, it's
Right.
not a great movie. And I'm like, I have to see how bad this movie was.
I think I read it's coming to Netflix literally like in a week or two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
So
I think I need to watch it.
I will watch it just because I'm going to be like, all right, let's see how bad this is.
I mean, when the actresses are like, yeah,
Right.
it's really not
Like,
very good.
they're not even done their promotional circuit, and yeah, this is not good. Whoa.
Like, I don't think I've ever seen that in my life, you know?
No. And
So,
then and then all their other movies, I think Sony's been delaying them too now. Like I know Craven the Hunter just got delayed for it's like 2 years past when it was supposed to be released or something. Like it's
yeah,
they just keep delaying.
they should just stop making these superhero movies. Just
Yeah.
stop doing it because you guys just don't do it right, you know?
Well, it's like you're trying to make these movies based on Spider-Man villains, and it's like, if you're gonna do it, at least put Spider-Man in it. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I don't get it. I mean, they made there will be 3 Venom movies without Spider-Man, and I'm just like, how? What?
Why?
Yeah,
Why?
yeah. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah. Guys, just stop.
Yeah.
Like, well, don't they have the thing where they have to put out a movie?
And maybe they
I
probably.
think that's what it is. It's like they have to put something out every so often, otherwise they lose the right.
Maybe that's what it is.
And I think that's what Madam Web was. It was just like they
had.
knew it was going to be terrible, but they put it out so that they could keep the license.
I guess that's how it works. I don't know. I mean, geez, right. Marvel's trying to get it back as it is, and they're putting out crappy movies.
Yeah. Well, they don't care as long as because I guess the license is more valuable than the ticket sales.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think I'm pretty sure that's why Madam Web was created because it's like it seems like nobody thought it was a great idea and nobody thought it was a very good movie, but they put it out anyway.
Right. Yeah.
And so I don't know.
I don't know. You're right. It's just it's very bizarre. Whatever goes on over there, it's very bizarre. Like yeah. I mean, I guess Marvel is they are so they so want to have access to Spider-Man that they just sort of let them do what they got to do.
Yeah, do whatever you need to do. Right.
But I would be really pissed that they're diluting my brand because every movie's like Marvel, And meanwhile, Marvel's like, no,
that's not. That does not belong to us. Just to be very clear, that is their thing. Lord. Anyway.
Oh well. All right.
All
Well,
right.
you have anything else for Deadpool and Wolverine?
The only thing I don't have anything for Deadpool. The only thing I had,
Oh right, yeah.
if I can get this thing to move, hang on, bear with me.
Uh,
No, my thing. All right.
there we go.
Okay, so just real quick, Doctor Who news. If you're a Doctor Who fan, the new season of Doctor Who premieres May 19th, so it's just
Okay.
right around the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's going to be the new Doctor, the Judy Gatwa Doctor, and I mean they've been releasing. I didn't get any of them, but they've been releasing a lot of like trailers and shows and stuff like that. It really looks interesting. I'm kind of excited about it. It really seems like they're going in a different direction. Um, and the doctor seems really energetic, so I'm kind of excited about it. There's one episode in particular where they go back and they meet the Beatles.
Yes, I saw that's
And
the one thing I saw an ad for.
yeah, and I'm like, man, I'm really curious about that
And
episode.
they're all like decked out in their like 60s gear.
Yeah,
Right?
he's got like an afro.
Yeah. I thought that looked really cool. I was like, all right, because like not for anything, but like I don't really remember like when the doctor time travels to different time periods. Does he ever change his outfit?
No,
Right.
that's a well. I mean, he does like in the old Doctor Who
Oh, he
ones.
would.
Like there's a there's a William Hartnell. They call them the historicals, right? And so there were a lot of them because at the when they rolled Doctor Who out, it was supposed to be semi-educational, right? So
Oh.
they had these like historicals where they would go back in time in Earth history. So there's one called the Romans, and they're walking around in like togas. So that doctor did do that,
Okay.
but like it was sort of the thing for him, but then it like it wasn't a thing for most of the run.
Right. Yeah.
I more recently and more modern Doctor, but even then he's like David, like there's an episode where they go back to Rome, they go to
Yes.
Pompeii
Right.
during David Tennant's, and I think he's running around in his regular suit,
Right. Yeah.
the whole time.
Yeah, I seem to remember like one of the companions being dressed appropriately, and the doctor
Yes.
was like, yeah,
Yeah. Right.
Okay. So anyway, I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was fun that that the doctor was like in costume. I thought that was pretty fun.
Yeah, and it looks like he's like, I mean, it looks like he's going to change costumes a lot. Like that's not a thing for Doctor Who in general. I mean, like in more recently, it's like they change it up, but it's like subtle changes. Like his shirt will change color, or the jacket he's wearing is a little different than, or something like that. But it's for the most part, it's like the same outfit.
Yeah.
But
now
like
it's like
this one,
full-on-
they're really, he's like, looks like he's gonna have a different outfit every episode and that kind of
Okay.
thing. So
Interesting, right?
yeah. So it'll be curious. Like I'd like him to have something that's at least
Yes.
his like typical thing that he wears.
Right. Yeah. Like if you see a picture, like a signature
Yeah,
look, or
a
something.
signature, right? A signature.
Yeah.
Like he's got in the episodes in I think the house on Ruby, or the church on Ruby Road.
Right.
Man, he's got this great brown leather jacket, like long black brown leather jacket.
Oh, okay.
That I
right.
thought was really cool, and I was like, "Oh, I hope that's his thing," because
Yeah.
that's a really neat looking jacket. I
That'll
still
be-
love, like, one of these days, like when they rebooted the series and Christopher Eccleston was the Doctor.
Yeah. Yeah.
He wears a black German U-boat leather jacket
Oh, is that
that
what he-
I just
okay.
like. I love. Like, one of these days I'm going to go out and get myself one of those jackets, because it's a very cool looking jacket. But that's what it is. It's a U-boat,
Oh,
a
I never
German
knew.
U-boat commander leather coat. It's pretty
Okay.
cool.
That is cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's funny because I didn't know the origins, but I knew when you say that doctor, I knew the leather jacket.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm telling you, one of these days I'm going to go out and get one of those things, because it looks really cool.
Oh,
So,
that's cool.
anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, but that's all I had. It
okay.
premieres on May 19th. It's on Disney Plus. So, and we'll all get it day and date. So
Yeah, right.
it'll be, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that'll be cool. I'm looking forward to that. It looks like it'll be at the very, very least, it'll be fun to see how they refresh the show.
Yeah,
just because they're trying something different, so it'll be fun to see how they refresh it. I'm looking forward to it in general, but it's always fun how, especially these brands and these properties that have been around forever. It's always interesting to me to see what they do to make it different and new and fresh.
Yeah. So I'm excited about it. I really am. I think what I've seen of Chudy Gatwa, I think he's great. So I'm looking forward to. I think it's going to be a fun ride. So
yeah, cool. Good.
Anyway, yeah. But that's all I had. I don't have anything else.
Okay, that's it then. Good stuff.
You have anything? You're good?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up for this evening.
All right.
All right. So thanks everybody for listening. You can follow us on Instagram and on YouTube. We'll be, we're recording this. So you can watch us there. You can follow us on Twitter, although we don't do a whole lot over there anymore. We're on Threads. We're on Facebook. So you can follow us all those places and get our updates occasionally as we post them. We're not the most active social media people.
We do all of our socializing here.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So with that, we'll wrap up the show. Thanks for listening tonight, and we will talk to you next time. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Thanks, Len. Thanks for listening.